Okay. Hey, Cliff, good to see ya. We're still recruiting for board members. We're letting everybody know. Okay, my friends, let's go ahead and get started. It's 6:33. Good evening. My name is Maria Batiola, and I chair the Beacon Hill Council. And we also have Deirdre, who is, there she is, who's waving, who is our vice chair, and Amy Kaminishi, who is our treasurer, and Mark Solomon, who's our board member. And I'm trying to see if there's any other folks. And with that, just welcoming you, and let's do our hello neighbor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna punt to the right of us in terms of introduction. Introduction could be like a simple, something like your name, what you're interested in making happen in Beacon Hill, and one fun fact about yourself. Okay? All right, I'm gonna punt to my right is Tara Dugan. Tara, good evening.
Hi, it's Tara, sorry. I am interested in, I'm blanking right now. I've lived here for 25 years. I love this community, and something interesting, nothing interesting. Go Hawks. Go Mariners.
All right, punt to the person next to you on your right.
Morgan, Megan. Or is that to my left?
It's all good. I'm Megan Slade. I'm interested in all the things that we're doing at Beacon Hill Council with air and noise pollution and addressing housing and community, all of that. Interesting thing about me, I have a worm bin and I like to visit it every day and see how my worms are doing. Let's see, Jack.
Hey everybody, my name is Jack. I'm with SDOT. I'm an intern. Yeah, so I guess what I'm looking to get out of this meeting is helping you all out. I'll be taking notes about what different people say, what they comment about the Stay Healthy Street. So I'll be making sure to write those down. And I guess like a fun fact about me is I grew up on Beacon Hill. Right now I live in Wedgwood. But I grew up on 12th. I went to St. George. I went to O'Day for high school. So I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. And to my left is Maria. Sorry, my right.
Okay, I'm gonna pass. Let's see, Cliff.
Hey, I'm Clifford Holland. I'm Clifford Holland. I've been up here on Beacon Hill, South Beacon Hill for 49 years. And I'm just interested in what's going on in the community, and I'm mainly interested in this proposed bike path.
Pass it on, Cliff.
Hey, I don't know who do I go to.
There should be names on the, if you look to your right or your left.
Okay, let's go with Deidre.
Thanks, Cliff. I'm Deirdre, live on Mid Beacon on 13th, so probably just a block up from where Jack grew up. And let's see, I am interested in reducing air pollution and any kind of pollution on Beacon Hill. And a fun fact about me, I once owned a hamster.
That's sweet. Oops. Want to punt it, Deirdre?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Let's see, everyone on my top row has spoken, so I'm going to go to Sarah Welsh.
Thanks, Deirdre. My name's Sarah Welch. I'm behind Cliff. I've lived on Beacon Hill for 46 years. And so I truly love the place, and I'm really passionate about the agenda for the Beacon Hill Council and the energy around this group. I think it's fantastic. My other passion is I live on Cheesty, and I'm passionate about preserving Cheesty as much as we can. The tree canopies there, what it gives to the community, and the what we're learning about the wildlife and the native habitat there. And I guess there's a fun fact about me someplace, but I guess
I'll tell you.
that I'm a senior citizen competitive swimmer.
One other infamous fun fact about Sarah is she came to Beacon Hill and was organizing the Great Boycott for Cesar Chavez, and is affiliated with El Centro and a beloved activist.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, punt it.
I muted myself. Sorry. Let's go to Peter.
Sorry, didn't unmute myself. Thank you, Sarah. I'm Peter. I'm a North Beacon Hill resident. I'd like to consider myself as an advocate for all things that affect Beacon Hill. Always looking for the most positive outcomes in those advocacies. An interesting fact, people may know, but I am a forest steward for Lewis Park. And I will punt it to Marlene.
Well, hello, I'm Marlene McInnes. I've been on Beacon Hill for over 35 years. So, and I'm interested in learning more about how the biking is going to affect the parking. And I guess a fun fact is that I attended the old Beacon Hill school that is now El Centro de la Raza. I guess I am telling my age now. But okay, the person that's next to me is Ellen.
Hi, this is Ellen, and I've lived on Beacon Hill since I was born, and I lived in the same house, quite honestly, and went to Van Asselt and Mercer and Cleveland. And the fun fact is, I just went to my 50-year reunion this past year for Cleveland High School, and thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to a 50-year reunion? But it was a great time. So we had a lot of fun. I don't know who, I can't see the screen, so I'll let someone else move along to the next person.
Michelle?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Michelle Flandreau, live in North Beacon Hill. I moved with my husband to Beacon Hill in May. So we are new residents. I'm excited to get to know all of you in our community. I'm interested in hearing more in particular about the bike lane. And a fun fact about me is that I like to rock climb. And I'll pass it to Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Green. My husband and I just moved into the neighborhood about a month ago, one of Sarah's neighbors. So I'm really excited to be here. I think that also counts as my fun fact, which I'm also excited about. And something I'm interested in when it comes to this meeting is really just getting to know, what all the issues are, and just hearing about what's going on in my neighborhood, because I want to know what's going on. So I will pass to Ryan.
Hello, I'm Ryan. My fun fact is that I purchased my first home ever on North Beacon Hill, and that's where I currently live. And I'm curious to hear more about the bike path and how it's going to affect parking in particular. And I'll pass it to Janet.
Hello all, I'm Janet Lores. I'm the SDOT project manager for the Beacon Hill Bike Route Project. And I'm here today to listen to all of you and to get as much feedback from everyone here as I can, with the goal of designing and developing the best project possible for the Beacon Hill area. And a fun fact about me is I'm a soap maker. I really enjoy making homemade soap. I will pass it along to Lou.
Hi, Lou. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, my name is Christina, and I I came to Beacon Hill kicking and screaming 72 years ago, not because I was resisting, but I was just out of the hospital and everything was new. So I've enjoyed growing up here and having a childhood that was quite idyllic, and now enjoyed an adulthood. And there's a lot of great people doing great things. Fun fact, I love accordions. And I saw a red-tailed hawk today on the West Greenbelt. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Lou, can you?
How about D?
There we go. Okay, hi. I'm on North Beacon Hill. I've been here about 23 years. And I'm here to talk about the impact of the bike lane. And fun fact, I have a 3-legged cat now. So let's see. How about Janet?
I did already introduce myself. Shall I pass it along to Lisa?
Hey there, is it firing up? Oh, there we go. Hi, Lisa Harrison from SDOT, and nice to be here tonight. Let's see. I'm excited to hear your guys' thoughts about the parking study and that we did, the third-party parking study. And let's see, a couple fun facts. So I was actually born up on Capitol Hill, so close by. I loved your story, how you, Lou, how you said you came to the neighborhood kicking and screaming 72 years ago. Yeah, I think that's kind of it, like that. And I appreciated what Megan said about worm bins. I used to do that myself too, and share worm tea with my friends that had gardens. So that's it. I think I'm going to pass it to Alvin. I think Alvin's here tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. Alvin Edwards. I'm a community engagement coordinator for Department of Neighborhoods. And, I just typically like to jump in meetings like this in community to kind of find out what's going on and, hear about everyone's concerns and things like that. But fast fact about myself, I actually lived on Beacon Hill for 7 years until 2020. We actually just moved away from there, but I lived there for a long time before that. So with that, I will pass it to, let's see, who hasn't gone yet? I will pass it to Carson.
Carson says he's not able to get his microphone, but he's a resident at North Beacon Hill. He's interested in engineering solutions and he's a civil engineer. Welcome, Carson. And I'm going to just catch up with Nijat. Did I say that right? Nijat Rose Akins.
Yes, hi, I am Najat Rose-Akins. I am currently a candidate for Seattle Municipal Court, and I decided to jump in and see what's happening over in this area. Fun fact, when I moved to Seattle, I moved to Beacon Hill in 2004. So we love that area so much that we moved 1 whole mile across. So now I live in Mount Baker, but I can walk to our old place in Beacon Hill. So I'm just here to kind of hear what's happening in the neighborhood. We still actually have that same townhouse over in Beacon Hill. So we are still Beacon Hill residents, but just happy to be here and just wanting to listen and hear what's happening in the community.
Okay.
And I will pass it to Mark Solomon.
Good evening, everyone. Mark Solomon. I am a lifetime Beacon Hill resident, living in the house that my grandmother built. I'm on the Beacon Hill Council. I also work as a crime prevention coordinator with the Seattle Police Department. And fun fact about me, I am a sci-fi and comic book nerd. And if anyone can tell me my background, you get a prize.
Is it Destiny?
No,
Lord of the Rings. That's it.
no, close. Let's put it this way, a sequel is coming out soon.
Is it Avatar?
Yes, this is Pandora. All right, and with that, let me pass it to Kalia. Did you go already?
No, I am not. Let me turn my video on. Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Clea. I've been living in Beacon Hill for a year. It was a year last week. And I didn't hear the rest of the questions, but I think it's I joined the meeting today to hear more about the bike lane and listen to their parking study results. And a fun fact about me is that I have 5 wisdom teeth, unfortunately.
A very wise young woman. Shall we go to Ryan?
Oh, I've already introduced myself. Thank you.
Emilia?
Hello, Amelia Sanchez, Beacon Hill resident, now almost a year in November. I am interested in these meetings because of the fact that living in the north side of Seattle, I noticed the disparities and the differences of life and what it has to offer, and I'm not very happy. And I want to see some things change in the positive. Not so much gentrification, but just, providing our residents and people like us opportunities that I saw that were very much abundant in the north side of Seattle. Also there. Fun fact about me is that I guess I'm a new homeowner. It'll be a year next month, which makes me really nervous, but I'm here. Thank you.
You guys, I'm going to go ahead and call folks. Ellen, I don't believe you've gone yet.
Oh, yes, I did speak, yes.
Okay, let's go to Rita.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. Let's see, I'll turn on my video, I guess. Can you see me? Yeah, you can. I've been a resident of Beacon Hill for, let's see, over 40 years. It's hard to remember how far back. And let's see, I'm interested in many things on Beacon Hill. The bike route, air pollution, all the different natural park areas, Cheesty, Lewis Park. I live near Lewis Park. I live in the north end of Beacon Hill. Let's see, fun fact. I climbed St. Helens before it blew. So is that it?
That sounds good.
I don't know who else hasn't gone.
There's Lena, and then there's Lavilia. Lena?
Hi, this is Lena. Yeah, I can go ahead and go. I have lived in Beacon Hill, North Beacon Hill, for about 3 years, and I am on the meeting because I'm interested in hearing about the bike lane and how that will affect residents. And a fun fact about me is that I have a pet bunny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Lavilia? Lavila?
Hi, everybody. My name's Lavilla. I'm a resident of Beacon Hill as well. I'm on the meeting, so I'm interested in learning more about the 15th Avenue bike changes and just general safety for pedestrians on 15th, just given the speed in which people drive down the road. Yeah, and then I can't really think of a good fun fact other than I'm not good at icebreakers.
Okay.
If that's a fun fact.
Good enough. So just checking in. Whoever did not get called, can you speak up, please? If not, we're going to proceed with our meeting. So our main topic for tonight is the SDOT. They requested to defer this meeting because they want to be able to have good information. So I'm going to introduce Lisa Harrison, and I understand that you brought Janet. So it'll be good if you can summarize the parking study, because not everybody had an opportunity to see that. I'm turning it over to you, Lisa. And if you have a presentation, please say so, and then Deirdre can co-host you.
Yeah, she should do that, because I took the study and put it into a friendly format to look at tonight. Did you forward the documents to Beacon Hill Council members last week?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good. Okay, good. That is great. So basically this presentation, so just to be clear with folks in the room, when Marie and I were chatting last week, she was asking for us to talk about the designs, and I had to let her know that we are not in a place to speak about that right now because they're in review by our subject experts. So we're literally hearing some review comments this afternoon. So we're very close, and our intention is to come back next month for your meeting, the beginning of November, to just talk about those designs. So right now, we're gonna look at the third-party parking study that was conducted and then just hear feedback from folks. We have not done anything to it from an SDOT lens. This is that study and then just kind of broken up onto pages so that it's easy to look at. So with a couple of SDOT slides at the beginning, I am going to be sharing this PDF out, and the parking study and all that data will be on the project webpage. So just let me know when I can share my screen. And I
go, Lisa.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me see. So now I just have to remember where it's at in this.
The bottom strip, you should see a green square that says share.
Oh, thank you. It couldn't have been brighter, but I didn't see it, of course. Okay. So there we go. I think, was that working for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So just a kickoff slide. And then we always like to, start any of our meetings with just a reminder about what our vision, mission, values, and goals are at the city. So Seattle is a thriving, equitable community, and we're powered by dependable transportation. We're on a mission to deliver transportation system that provides safe and affordable access to places and opportunities. And this aligns with our core values stated below: equity, safety, mobility, sustainability, livability, and excellence. All right. So really just to state the purpose, and then just a reminder about where we're at in the project timeline. So the purpose is we want to share this, and it's good that you guys also had an advance view of it, but this third-party parking study that was conducted, and hear your feedback, and remind everybody that the next round of outreach we're going to be doing is what we call our 10% design. So we're still in that planning phase. So we're in the very early design of the project. So there we go with the schedule. So first slide is really just a cover sheet orientation to kind of help folks see what we were looking at and defining. And because the corridor is long, we broke it up into the two segments kind of naturally, 15th Ave South and Beacon, and just showing the current RPZ boundaries. So that's just to give that context about the cover slides and the purpose. And why is this covering up my buttons?
Lisa, what's an RPZ?
It's the residential parking zone.
Got it.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, all right. So then overall parking occupancy for the entire corridor, and then obviously extended east and west for both Saturday, June 25th, and Thursday, June 30th, and kind of tried to blow up these legends. I'm going to just sit on this slide for a minute to let folks kind of take this in. We really just wanted to capture our standard occupancy breakdown that we use for reporting. And so they kind of aligned with that, and then just wanted to make sure that we captured some of the unique things going on in the neighborhood, particularly in that north-north portion with the steep slopes on the side streets. And obviously, I'm going to not spend a ton of time, so we can always move back to these when people want to have questions. We can always move through these slides to zoom in on something. So for parking occupancy overall, so obviously this is averaging the Saturday and the Thursday through the entire corridor. This is what our data showed for the entire corridor, that we averaged, at this peak, it was around 65% occupancy. And that was on Saturdays, and kind of give some context there. And then we have a table over here. You can look at some of those numbers. Now, I know there was a lot of people who went during the introductions that were talking about how they lived in the north segment of Beacon Hill. So for 15th Avenue South portion, we have our Saturday occupancies. So we have them broken up into manageable little chunks of time. So we have the morning from 8 to 11. We have early afternoon, 11 to 2, mid-afternoon from 2 to 5, and in the evening from 5 to 8. I tried to blow up this legend, but I'll just state it one time for everybody's benefit. So the blue, the light blue, is 0 to 40% occupancy. The green is 40 to 60% occupancy. The purplish color is 60 to 80% occupancy, and the kind of burnt orange is over 80% and over. And then we do have a few no parking zones that have also been identified. Let's see. So then it's a repeat here on Thursday for the occupancies for 15th Avenue South and the side streets. And then here's where we're looking at 15th Avenue South and the comparison of occupancies. And these are obviously averaged for the whole corridor, not for, block by block. That's where you can look at the data on the map. So we're looking at that we've got about just over 50% occupancy for both of those days throughout the day, with some dips in the midday, although that's more on Saturday. And then let's see. So here we have shifting down to the second segment, the Beacon Ave segment. We have the Saturday maps showing the occupancy, and these are larger areas. It wasn't as easy to crop them down. I would have liked to have created a visual so you guys could see them all in a row, but I had to break them up. So this is like the morning, early afternoon times on a Saturday on Beacon Ave and the neighboring streets. I should say it's a lot more than Beacon Ave. And then here we have the Saturday mid-afternoon and early evening on the Beacon Ave area. And then on Thursday, same deal, had the morning and early afternoon on Beacon Ave South and in the evening. And then what we've got here for the chart for averaging Saturday and Thursday is, we see, and this makes obviously a lot of sense, that we've got higher occupancies in the evening for the business district and all the great restaurants and stuff in the neighborhood. And we've got a chart right there to kind of line up and give you a breakdown by the hours. And that's kind of that is the parking study and the data. There is a long table that we've also shared with folks that I didn't put in this presentation slide deck, but we could certainly, talk about block by block. I know that there was a lot of people, I was taking notes, there's a lot of people that live in North Beacon Hill that are on this call. And so I'm happy to talk out, or hear what people's thoughts are for any specific area. So just want to open the floor.
Hi, Lisa, I have a question. This is Deirdre. How do you measure occupancy? Like, are you looking at enough space for a car to park, or vehicle? And what if people are kind of, you know how sometimes people will space apart from each other enough where like half a car could fit there? So tell us more about how you're measuring it.
Sure, that's a great question. I'm going to kick it off, and then I'm going to have Janet maybe come in to make sure I'm getting all the details right, because we were talking about this, and that is that you know, there is estimating going on. So we are measuring in feet how much parking length that there is on a block, but then, you know, there's people that drive, you know, small vehicles, large vehicles. So it's, you know, we're estimating what can be parked there. And actually, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because in the table that is part of the documents that we shared, there's some blocks that are highlighted because they're 80%, but there's some that are actually over 100%. And that's because there might be smaller vehicles and more that can fit into an area that we have identified. And I believe, and that's where Janet, I'd love if you could confirm and make sure I've got this right, is I think that it's about 20 feet average for a vehicle that we are allotting for parking space when we're accommodating in our analysis. Janet, does that sound right?
I believe that's correct. But yeah, you're correct, right on how you explained that, as far as the length of available parking. Each area is determined how many parking spots could fit there, and then the occupancy is measured by how many cars are actually in those spots.
Thank you. I think I saw a question from Carson. Did the third party conduct an occupancy study between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m.? So in the nighttime hours when residents are home? And he wants to know if they did not, what was the reason?
Janet, can you speak to that? The parking study, I know we have this data, but do we have 24 hours on some of this?
I think that we felt like we would catch everyone, you know, everyone in for the evening in that 5 to 8 range, and then catching them back in the morning. But I know, I'm sorry, but I wasn't completely involved with the planning of this parking study, so I'm not 100% sure whether we have any 24-hour counts. I'm sorry, I can get that information for you.
I think you're right. I think it was Hallie, who's our project developer and who's out, and we wasn't able to attend the meeting tonight. And so we can definitely get back to you on confirmation about that data.
Lisa, I'm going to read out questions from the chat box. Lavila's question is it possible to share the presentation with the group so people can take a closer look at it?
And yes, you mean take it off of shared screen, and like I could email you right now the files, something like that? How do you?
I think that would be good, but for some people, they want to have some time. So in other words, we may have them email you directly afterwards, you know, and copy us.
Sure. And the documents you shared last week actually have more information. This is that from those documents. So if they have those documents, they have this, and they actually have a bit more because they actually have the table. So I only just blew this up so that it'd be easier for folks to look at. And I am more than happy to share that with you after the meeting. Absolutely.
Great.
I have a question as well, if you don't mind. So hi, my name is Kalia, just introducing myself again. So I want to applaud you guys for doing the parking study. It's very necessary information for sure. And my question is, what are or will be the conclusions drawn from this data, and how will that affect the design that you guys have in process right now? I just want to kind of pick your brains a little bit. What kind of questions are you asking, and what kind of conclusions are you hoping to extract from these charts?
That's a great question. And we are looking at this study to see how much parking availability there is in the area, because I know we've already let your group know that the plan is to remove parking on 15th Avenue. And we understand that that parking is important to people. The loading zones are important to people. We want to make sure that removal of parking, that there's other places for people to park, that there's alternate locations for people. So that's how we're using this data.
If I may jump in as kind of a follow-up to that response, what is the likelihood that you would, I mean, let me back up, I guess, which we're not seeing right now is that chart, which I have had an opportunity to see. And there's a lot of information to unpack here. Couple of things. First of all, the big concern right now for those that live on 15th Avenue is the fact that phase 1 of this bike plan is the only one that's been funded to this point. It's all well and good that we now have the information that takes us all the way to Jefferson Park. But the problem is that the focus for most of the people in this meeting is the issue of loss of parking on 15th Avenue and how these charts will affect that. When you look at the data that you've supplied us with, in a couple of instances, what I've noticed is that you have taken the information and compiled it for the run from north completely south to Jefferson Park, but that skews the outcome of that data as to the real effect on the loss of parking from the bridge to Beacon Avenue. So yeah, all this data is great. I mean, eventually over the course of the span of the project, it is necessary information, but what is most specifically important for us right now are those folks that live on 15th Avenue, which is different from those folks to a degree that go south, as you've indicated, that's more the business district of Beacon Avenue. What's most important for those people that live on Beacon Avenue, and your chart, the data on there shows very succinctly that on the adjacent side streets, that's 80 to 100% occupied, and during the full scope of the 2 times they did their assessment. So there's nowhere else for these folks to park without going way further on out, and then walking in the dark becomes more of a risk for them to incur. So, there's a lot there that I've kind of put out there, but what we want to hear is how you're addressing the concerns that we have been stating for months in these meetings about what are you doing to accommodate those who live on 15th Avenue who are losing parking and know that there is no adjacent side street parking available through the RPZs and or the fact that they're completely filled. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the first step for evaluating that. And it is going to take going, almost property by property to understand each person's need, each resident's need. Some people do have off-street parking, and loss of parking on the street is not an issue, but then there are others that it is an issue, and people will need to move to the side streets. And we are in the planning phase of this project at 10% design, and this is the time to be evaluating that and to understand how big of an impact this is. So we're here to listen.
So you raise a great point in the fact that it may require you going from residence to residence along that range. Have you done any of that to this point? And when you talk about getting yourself towards the submission of design plans for the 10% completion, that isn't done, it's in review. But if you're making designs without having that vital information in hand, as I interpret this.
We have options currently. And you need to start with something in order to understand the impacts. And now we have our parking study, and then we have our 10% design. And this is the time when we are planning a very robust public outreach effort. And we are looking for feedback from people. Nothing like 30% design is when we try to get things settled as far as parking and settle on one option. So we're not there yet.
And will you be involving the residents as part of that? In past meetings, you have all said that part of the process is involving the residents who might be most affected by this. But to my knowledge, and to give you a little bit of background, I'm one of the folks that's part of the 15th Avenue South Community Connections. We did some canvassing through the neighborhood, and we've done a lot of talking to the neighbors. And from what we have gleaned through those times that we've done all the door knocking, we haven't gotten anyone that said that they've had anyone from SDOT make any communication or connection with them in regards to their concerns.
Well, Lisa and I were both on a site walk last year, and we did talk to quite a few people along the corridor. All I can say is we will be, yes. And our outreach effort has been there already, and we've done a lot of work in that area, but we haven't had anything concrete to go out to people with until now. And we have the 10% plans almost. We should have those in a week or two. And this parking study, I will assure you that you will be seeing us out talking with people along the corridor directly.
Janet, I don't want us to get to a place wherein you say you guys did it, the community says they didn't. I'm wondering if there could be, and I know this takes more time from community, if there's an opportunity to actually, for them, because they have been checking in with the neighbors, to do a walk with you. I mean, if that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I know I have an ask of the 15th Avenue connectors to do this. Lisa, if you can take down the screen, we can take a look at everybody to see where this idea might go. And then there's a couple more questions I want to loop back on the chat box. Will this idea work with you guys? Because I know we've had different folks who have been very concerned about safety. Is that going to work, Peter, Dee, to get that the joint walkthrough?
And we can do multiple times, as many times as needed.
I won't speak for the rest of the folks in my group, but for me personally, I would like that to happen, because that opens a door of further communication that we can't address during these meetings. But I'll let my other associates on that committee chime in as to what their thoughts are.
And possibly we can go back to you guys afterwards to get an answer, so you have time to talk it through, because it is a commitment of time. Is that okay? So what I'm going to do is, I see quite a number of hands raised. I'm going to go back to the chat box just to take care of Michelle and Ryan and Lavila, just to make sure that their questions are answered, and then go to Amelia and then Myra. Okay. Let's see. For those who want to get copies of the presentation, please put in the chat box your email so we can send it to you. And then Michelle, did you get your question answered, which came in pretty early? How will SDOT use the information as part of the bike lane project?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, you have a question here regarding the radiative impact. Do you want to ask it? Or should I read it?
Well, yeah, the major question I have is that as new construction occurs and some of, additional townhomes, or I don't know what's planned in the area, but when new construction occurs and additional parking is not connected to that construction, then parking gets even tighter. So I'm wondering if and how you've considered the impact of that over the course of the next 5 or 10 years, and if you've been coordinating with other departments to address how parking is added, particularly given that this might take away all that parking along 15th.
Yeah, I mean, surely that the development will continue in the Beacon Hill area and it will get denser. But also the city's goal is to get more people riding alternate transportation, transit and bicycles and walking. So that is the goal for the city to get more people out of their cars. So I guess that's my answer to that, is the hope is that more people are making a transition out of their cars.
Okay, we'll go to Amelia and then Myra, then Amy. Go ahead, Amelia. Oh, and then Tara.
Thank you. I guess my question is along the lines of Ryan's, in the sense of with building new housing development, whether it be multifamily, townhouses, row houses, whatever it may be, they're not including parking. So therefore, all of those new housings will then therefore be on the streets. And so how is SDOT going to reevaluate how RPZs are issued to residents within those parameters? Or is there a way that can be revisited as to how they're issued, so that it's issued on the basis where if your housing was built maybe with no parking, whether or not you would be a high priority or low priority in getting those issues? And then on the flip side, play devil's advocate, if the city is encouraging for us to use alternative transportations, whether it be bicycles or mass transit, then when are we going to see some more, or I should say, dedicated bus lanes, so that we can have those options besides? Because I mean, I travel from South Beacon Hill, for instance, and there's not one dedicated bus lane, and all the roads are bumpy, and I basically am nauseated by the time I get to downtown Seattle because of the fact that these roads are not maintained. And if there's encouragement for us to use it, I just think there needs to be more incentives for that as well too. Thank you.
Hey, before Janet might have something, I will say that I might want to talk with our parking team to have them maybe have a conversation, maybe even join a joint meeting with us, because some of your questions, Amelia, we're not subject experts on that. We're at the project level. And so there's things that we could potentially bring someone from that team to kind of help clarify some of the questions that are coming up.
Okay. Myra?
Hi, yeah, you mentioned that in terms of doing these designs that you have some options. Can you clarify what those options are?
Sure. Right now, we have 2 options on 15th, and that is having the bike lane one way on each side of the street. That's one option. And then another option is having the bike lanes just on one side of the street and it being a 2-way bike lane.
Okay. So when the community did kind of our analysis, and we presented that to you sometime last year, one of the options that we kind of came up with was that the bike lane, where it not the whole length of it, but there is a possibility for it moving over to 16th, which is lower traffic. I forget exactly at what street it can move over. I don't think it's Massachusetts. I think it's one to the south. But in any case, there's lower traffic, lower parking. There seems like there's more space for bikes and a kind of a safer route for bikes. And then going down 16th to join Beacon. And I know there's a bit of an issue right near that one block north of Lander, north of the Festival Street, because it's one way. But it seems like maybe that's an option that could be considered as well.
Was that 16th or was it 14th?
16th.
16th. Lisa, do you recall that option being evaluated?
No, I think that the options were 12th, 14th, and 12th wasn't a direct, it was a jog. It was more of like a greenway. It wasn't, we're trying to create like a high quality bike route that's safe for maybe not 8 to 80 because of the hills that we have climbing from the Jose Rizal Bridge, but that's to provide a level of safety and a direct route for cyclists and the increased ridership that we anticipate to continue throughout the city.
Right. This was an option that was presented by the community when we did our analysis, and we sent that to you. And it seems like that hasn't really been even considered. So I'm wondering if you can reconsider that and consider that to be an option, since it looks like this is going to take out a lot of parking. And I think you can, at least for part of this route, avoid taking out parking and put the bike route in an area that is lower traffic and is safer for and it has lower speed traffic because it's more of a side street, and is safer for both bicyclists and people walking and everybody else who's on that road. So I'd like to ask that you consider that as well and do an evaluation of that as well.
I'm gonna check with Hallie, who's our project developer, because she may have vetted that and I might not be up to date. And so she certainly got the information, but I don't know where it went from there. So Mira, that's another thing we've made a note that we're gonna circle back and find out where that went after it was received by the team. So I'll get back to you for sure.
Okay. So just to be clear, Janet, because you're new, we submitted this to Serena, I believe, the previous project manager, and we did not get any feedback. So since, thank goodness, you're at the 10% design, we would like to have many things considered. Just a quick FYI, John Kim from the Pacific Hospital PDA is also interested in doing the walk with you guys. Okay.
I
Now,
saw that.
I'm going to go back to the sequence that we have. After Myra, we had, for some reason, I have Amelia, and then Amy, and then Tara, and then I see also Kalia's and Michelle's hand.
Maria, excuse me, could you send that proposal to us on 16th? Because I have not seen that.
Well, it's very interesting. You might want to look at the whole package. We also understand from John Kim that there's also safety concerns. So if you're going to review and recalibrate the whole thing, so for sure we'll get that. And Myra, I'm looking at you to pull up the presentations. Okay, so we can get that in. Thank you so much. Okay, just checking back in. I'm keeping a running tab, and I hope I didn't screw this up. I have Amy, Tara, Kalia, and then Michelle. And if I skip somebody, please yell. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh yeah. So thanks for coming. I did have a good question. North Beacon Hill is the most gentrified. I think it was documented in Seattle Times. And as I agree, as someone said, there's going to be more development with less parking. What accommodations are going to do for people who need disabled parking? And I know you want to push people to take public transportation, but what about personal safety? I've taken the bus and a light rail, and especially on a Sound Trans, there were times where I couldn't sit down because someone was sleeping. on the chairs and also on the metro. There's some behavior and issues on the bus that can cause some personal safety. So I know you're pushing public transportation, but what are you doing accommodating people with personal safety on public transportations? Thank you.
Your first question was about, was it accessible parking?
For example, I have a garage, luckily, but if I didn't, my parents are disabled, so they're not able to bicycle or take a bus, so I need a car. So you're saying you want to push people to take public transportation, but that's not feasible for some people. So what accommodation are you going to do? Also, I had an issue with a neighbor who had electrician park in the alley, and I had to tell him to move because I couldn't get out. Also, it was garbage day. So he parked illegally through someone's parking, but what are you doing accommodating for people? It's not feasible if some people take public transportation for personal safety or physical being of a person. So I know you're pushing this, but what are you doing to accommodate people who cannot take public transportation?
We do want to meet with people one-on-one and discuss your individual needs and work on accommodations to ensure that everyone is able to access their houses. So the answers to you is we will be reaching out to people on an individual basis.
Janet, there's a particular person we want to connect with you again. She came to our previous meeting on this topic, and she had been sexually assaulted. She works late at night. So it was not satisfactory for her to be just referred to the police to see if there's some safety measures she can do. So I think that's a very particular situation that we want to make sure that you guys know. If I may, I'll go back to the list. Tara? Tara, do you still have your hand up? There you go.
Okay, sorry, here I am. I have a question, kind of a two-part question and a comment. The parking study that you guys did, that digging into the data, shows that there really is nowhere for us to go. And again, I'm confused about individually going and speaking to each resident along 15th Avenue South, and then are you saying that you're going to find us parking?
We're going to find out what the actual needs are overall. As we did when we did our walkthrough, the people we spoke to, and I know you probably find this hard to believe, but the people we spoke to didn't seem to mind losing the parking. They preferred having the bike lanes and having it narrower so it would slow down vehicles. You know, there's always a trade-off with whatever you do. And that's what we heard on our walk. So we want to get an all-encompassing view of what the impacts really are to people.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm one of the many people that were never aware of and you know, for a myriad of different reasons, I'm sure. So I would like to comment on, again, the main goal of this bike path is to get people to get rid of their cars or choose other possibilities. It feels to me a bit like that's coming from a place of privilege. And I'm coming at this because Beacon Hill is one of the last places in this city that is affordable for people to live. And that also means that there's a lot of lower income folks who are laborers, blue collar workers. On my block alone, I'm a house cleaner. I can't get rid of my car. And I don't have off-street parking. And in my spot area, if you refer to the parking study, there is nowhere for me to go. And none of the people parking on my block currently to go. So that's an issue. I have a small construction company next to me. There's a carpet cleaner, landscaper across the street. There's a food delivery driver who has health issues. So it's an equity issue as well, because the lower income people that live on 15th Avenue South don't have that option to switch to the pretty kind of non-existent mass transit that could be available. And so we would like more options based off this parking study and it being an equity issue, other than how many bike lanes there'll be. We would like our parking, especially at night. And that's another comment that I had about the parking study, that it wasn't done. We're not sure if it was done on off hours, but you know, it's only going to get denser, and it's dense already. That's why I park on the street, is that we have. So my main concern is that you're taking that into effect, and that in any way, shape, or form that this study will change the project itself.
Yeah, I think at this stage, Tara, one of the things that's really going to be helpful, and if you want to coordinate this through the 15th Avenue connectors, give your name, the job, the livelihood job of the people you're talking about, and the address, so that they're for sure, you know, Janet and her team can check in with them. Related to this, I'm seeing on the chat box that there's a request to would SDOT mind sharing some of their notes with the group on any community walkthroughs? It was great to see the data on the number of individuals interviewed, but how many of those interviewed expressed the need for parking, and how much? So we feel like we're just catching up from the ground. And we don't want to revisit that, but just want to make sure that there's a complete picture of all of the folks that has been touch based with.
Just Maria, a couple things real quick. Can I speak for just a moment? Which is, there are some documents on the project webpage that speak to the mailers and the flyers and stuff that we distributed. That's all fine and good. But that's also where a lot of this stuff will also get pushed, because there is a materials section on the project webpage. And I encourage people, when you look at the parking study again, and then you look at this presentation that may or may not help look at things side by side, is this project is talking about removing parking on 15th. And so it's about looking at the side streets and the capacity on the side streets. So, and they're different along the corridor. So that's where it's really important to look into that data. And then we want to talk to the people that are concerned and that have those specific issues. For example, Dee joined us on the site walk and has handicap parking. And so we have been in contact with a few people talking about parking concerns.
So the question was, would you guys mind sharing your notes with the groups that have done walkthroughs?
With no notes, yeah, I believe everything has been put into the report and transcribed from notes and everything. I can verify and then just resend anything over that maybe has been missed and you guys didn't receive, but yeah, I can definitely double check.
What it sounds like is the purpose of this meeting really is to keep figuring out what was missed, and so that could be done. Okay, moving forward, Kalia, I've got you next.
Yep. Let me lower my hand. Yeah. So I just want to piggyback off of what Tara said, because she said it very well. My question is, how are you guys considering the privilege and the socioeconomic status of the people who live here? Right. It requires a certain privilege, whether it's money, what kind of job you have, being able-bodied, to be able to walk or bike to work. Personally, I work across the bridge. I work in Redmond. So that's an hour and a half on 2 buses, sometimes 3 if I want to take I-90 and avoid traffic or closures, right? And so you were talking about encouraging people to use public transit, reducing emissions and improving air quality. I understand those goals, but it seems a bit backwards almost. Instead of making the bike lane that we have safer, because the traffic on 15th Ave is very fast, it's dangerous. I know that I have to cross it multiple times every day just to get to my car. Instead of installing a stop sign, or just like I can't remember, I think it was Mira who said considering options, other options that don't require removing the parking. It appears that you guys have chosen to make it harder on those who have little or no choice but to use their cars in exchange for the convenience for people who have the privilege, or people who are just riding through, people who don't even live here, to use a bike lane which they don't have to use. So it does seem a little bit backwards in the way that you guys are doing that, and I just wanted to bring that up and ask if you guys are considering that, and also just make that aware to the group as well.
Yes, I do believe that, you know, we are always thinking about that. And we also hear from folks that can't afford to own a car that that's a privilege too. So it definitely depends on who the speaker is. So we've heard it from a lot of different sides. We are talking with a lot of folks, not only just on this project in particular, but, you know, we have other projects that aren't bike lane focused, but maybe bike lanes get put in as part of it. So it's an ongoing conversation. When we say this is not a taking away people's cars, and we know that not everybody can do it. And that's what this parking study does, is it shows what is available, what the capacity is in the neighborhood, not specifically on one street, but on multiple streets. And so that's the storytelling. That's why we did a broader parking study, to get the nuance. And when you look and dig into the data a little bit, and you notice certain blocks and how they change in capacity over the day. So there's some conversations they had, and some people we might have to, you know, go more in depth with, but that's exactly what we plan to do, because essentially up until this point, we are just now moving into the planning and design of a route. Everything on all the outreach and all the conversations we had in the past was simply to identify a preferred. So it's the start of having these kind of conversations.
Michelle, then Lena, then Myra.
Yeah, thank you. As several people have noted, 15th is a very busy street. And I'm curious to know if SDOT is seeking to have more folks utilize the bike lane. What are you doing to ensure that people have safe riding conditions? Because I think today it can be really intimidating and unsafe to ride along 15th given the traffic.
Yes, and that is one of the main reasons for this project, is because there's been a lot of people requesting a safe bike route through this area. And what we'll be doing is constructing protected bike lanes, which will be basically about 4.5 feet wide bike lane with another 1.5 foot buffer between the traffic lane and the bike lane. It'll most likely be a physical buffer of some sort. So the actual width of the roadway where the travel lanes are will be narrower, which will slow traffic down. Just human nature, the narrower roadway slows cars down. And then we'll also be reconstructing curb ramps along that corridor. We've walked this stretch quite a number of times now, and there's so many ramps that are just missing or substandard. The sidewalks are in bad shape, so we'll be fixing those as well. So there'll be a lot of improvements to the corridor that's going to make it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians, and will slow down vehicles.
Lena.
Hello, sorry, let me find my question. Yeah, so there was a message in the chat box by Lou just asking for you guys to consider the quality of life of the residents and caretakers living on the street. And I just wanted to just give a story. Just personally, you know, this summer I've had a handyman come over, and the side streets, I live on 15th in Massachusetts, so that street already gets pretty full. And there were several times when he had no spot to park his truck. So I'd have to move my own car to make room for him. And I can't imagine where people like plumbers, handymen, electricians would park if they had to provide maintenance for people living on this street, especially, you know, in North Beacon Hill. So I just wanted to point that out. It can be kind of difficult already. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I've noticed on game nights, people tend to park on 15th to the point where I can't find any parking. Because people will park, take the light rail down to, you know, a Mariners game or whatever, whoever's playing. So on those nights, I have to walk quite far just to get back to my home. And then finally, I guess I just want to know about the other options that you guys are considering, where we can save parking, have bike lanes, and maybe increase access to public transit. I kind of feel like we're being targeted as residents, and it would be nice to know what your other options are that might, you know, increase the quality of life or maintain the quality of life of residents on the street.
It's really great to hear all this feedback from people. You know, the truth is right now, none of our options on 15th have parking included as an option. And the reason for that is the width of the roadway curb to curb is 32 feet. And travel lanes are 10 feet each. So that's 20 feet. It's a pretty narrow roadway. So it is either parking or a bike lane. There's not room for both. Like all the trees would have to be taken down basically to make that happen. And we all know that's not an option either. So, you know, but hearing all your feedback today, you know, when we move forward with a project and options are decided upon for 30% to move forward with 30% design, we have to go to a group called the Complete Street Steering Committee to take the project, and they basically approve it. And this is where we bring this feedback from the residents. And truthfully, I will be bringing this earlier than 30% because there is so much very passionate discussions about this. And it's something we need to evaluate further. So this is the purpose of planning, is to go out and get input from the public. And you know, we have something to look at now, and we really want to hear from you. So
I'll say soon, right? Soon, Janet, right? We don't have it quite yet, but I wanted to chime in on
Yeah.
something you and I had said we wanted to. So the designs are still being vetted and there's comment review process that's still happening right now, but there is some parking that will remain on 15th Avenue South between the the Jose Rizal Bridge and the 14th, 15th Gulf, you know, that wide intersection. We don't know whether it would be on the west side or the east side. And then there is a small portion that, you know, it looks like we're going to be able to preserve about half of a block of the Bayview and between Bayview and College, because it gets wider up there, and that means load zones as well, which is some of the things we're also going to be looking at for load zone delivery, you know, things like that. Those are all design things that we're going to be working on between this 10 to 30%, and why the conversations are really important. So I did want to mention that that came up in our conversation today. We meant to mention that a little bit sooner. And then I do want to say one other quick thing, which is I did a ride with Councilmember Morales, our new SDOT director, Greg Spots, last week, along with a couple folks from the community, from Anna Z from Disabilities Washington, and also a couple folks from the Greenways. And I was shared a data point about that the highest ridership, demographic ridership we have right now, according to Cascadia, is Hispanic and Latino men in middle-aged, because they tend to work odd hours and there's bus service that isn't really available. She was sort of breaking it down for me. I need to find out some more data points on that, but I just wanted to pass that along because of the conversations we've been having tonight.
Well, let me put a pause on this. I'm hearing your planner say she's open. I'm hearing you say it's not so open, Lisa. So I'd like to trust that there's still listening going on. So let's move forward. Myra?
Hi. Wow, there's been so many great comments that now I have like a couple extra thoughts and a question. So on Lena's point, yeah, on game nights, parking is difficult, not just on 15th, but pretty much all over the neighborhood. 14th is packed. You see people walking to light rail and from light rail, you know, they're obviously going to the Mariners game or whatever game because they're wearing colors and stuff. So it would be great if you did some parking study on, you know, on a night like that, do some counts on a night like that and include that in the data. And I saw a comment asking that there be some counting done between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., especially, you know, during the summer when people are out later and there may not be, you know, people parked during those times, but they're there later. It may be different seasonally as well. So yeah, it would be great to get some more data points like that. And I agree that 15th is not safe currently. You know, even as a driver, it makes me uncomfortable driving on 15th. People, I mean, I'll be going 30 when you're supposed to go 25, and people will be going around and passing me. And so it's not a safe road. So some of the options that maybe you should add to this is, how can we slow that traffic down without necessarily, like, it seems like our only tool for improving safety is to build a bike lane, but it seems like in other cities there are other tools for you know, improving safety on the roads and slowing traffic down. So can you consider some of those types of options? You know, maybe stop signs. I don't know. I mean, you're the traffic engineers. I would think that there's a bigger tool bag there to choose from to improve safety. And finally, I have a question. So referring to the community walk that happened, I was out of town and I don't remember. Was that only folks that lived on 15th that were making comments on that, or was that open to a wider group of folks to join that walk?
We flyered to everybody on 15th specifically for the site walk. And then we had 2 pop-up events that we promoted to the neighborhood. And we actually shared comments from the site walk with neighbors that attended those 2 events. So in the mailer, we were promoting the pop-up events to people beyond the folks that we actually went and walked the corridor and delivered flyers, actually to survey them to find out, hey, when is the best time to meet us? That's the date and time was actually determined by the people on the corridor who responded to our flyering and told us when they wanted to meet. And we actually also hosted a focus group for folks that maybe wouldn't be able to attend the site walk. Unfortunately, not a lot of people attended that, but we were trying to offer options. And we actually went out and flyered and told everybody, hey, these are from the neighbors we heard from. This is the date and times that have been selected. Hope that you can join us. So went out again and hand delivered flyers to everybody about the sidewalk. But no, I didn't walk up to 14th or 13th and flyer to them about the walk on 15th, if that's what you're asking, which I understand.
No. I'm what I'm asking, I guess, and I attended some of the other events. I live on 14th, but I knew about the walk on 15th. So was that only open to folks that lived on 15th, that particular event, or was that open to anybody?
I invited the people directly on the corridor. I heard from the people on the corridor. The invitation was delivered. It was delivered to the people on the corridor. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Are you good, Myra?
Yes.
Okay. Just FYI, what I understood from the 15th Avenue connections was when they were walking the 15th Avenue corridor, they realized that they were running into a lot of first-generation immigrants, Chinese speaking in particular, that they had a hard time connecting. So A for effort on the English side, but the population is different. And so I think we're trying to weave together what we can now. The other piece that I was told that this was going to come up, but nobody's bringing it up, which is the outreach to the businesses on 15th, that in fact, the hair cutter had not been reached out to and the gas station. So you guys, if you can put that on your list so that item can be resolved and not dropped.
Maria, is that a comment to us, to SDOT?
It's a comment to SDOT and to 15th Avenue, since they're going to do a joint walk with you guys.
Oh, well, I've talked to both the hairdresser and to the gas station, including the project developer, multiple times. And that happened actually before the email from Communications, and then we went back and followed up. So I think there's a disconnect, but I have the conversations and stuff from it. So we definitely have been connecting with people. I think it's really good. We're going to sync up, because it seems like the folks from Community Connections aren't getting the same information that we have received.
I think what we're trying to do is to weave our communications together. So that would be great if you can actually share that with the 15th Avenue Connection folks. We're extending ourselves because this is important for us. I mean, the truth is that you guys get to do your thing and then you go away. The community has to live with it. So whatever we can do to weave the communications and make sure the people who need to be talked with that's done. That's our main interest.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate the coordination for that.
Okay. It's about 7:57. Emily, and then I have a question on the RPZ. Emily, are you still up? Are you still? I'm looking for.
I am still here. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily.
Hey. I wanted to second Mira's point, and I see it also getting seconded in the chat by Kalia here, of just asking for there to a request that there be an investigation of further measures to slow traffic and a curiosity about whether or not that is the primary goal, or is the primary goal bike lane creation? And I am a bike user and I enjoy biking, although Seattle has pretty terrible weather for safe biking. I would say 7 months out of the year, which I don't know if that's been, I joined in a little late, but I don't know if that's been brought up. It's difficult. It's very difficult to bike here, even if you are a bike enthusiast. And I do think that the idea of narrowing streets leading to slower streets, yes, in an ideal world, I think that would be true, but I happen to live on 14th and Hanford, and people park on both sides of that street. And because we're so close to the Columbia Way off-ramp from I-5, we actually have people flying at 60 miles an hour down our street regularly. I have lost my side mirror. My neighbor's car was rammed into in a hit and run like just a few months ago. So I don't think the idea of moving all parking to what are actually smaller arterial streets will necessarily equal safer, slower streets. And I do think it's really important for SDOT to consider multiple measures for slowing traffic and creating safer streets if street safety is the primary goal. If bike lanes is the primary goal, I'd be curious as to why that is. If it's related to emissions reductions, I'd be curious why investigating air traffic isn't being put as a priority over vehicular emissions. So I just, yeah, I would ask for, would love to hear more about what you all have been considering. Thank you.
And both items are important to us for this project. They go hand in hand. Thank you for that input.
I'm looking around. I don't see any more hands up. I do. Oh, Clea, you want to go ahead, please?
Yeah. So I think, from what I've said and others, and hearing just from what everyone has different, very valid concerns, that I would like to hear a verbal, I mean, you guys have been acknowledging that you're hearing us, and I appreciate that. But I would also like to hear a verbal acknowledgement or promise that you guys will go back to the drawing board on these options you're considering and consider adding more options. Because as it stands right now, from most of the people we've heard from, that removing the parking is not an option for us. And even if you consider to do more canvassing, more surveys and things of that nature, the people on this call have made it pretty clear that we would like to keep our parking, and we know that we might have to compromise, but I think the options, well, you've said, Janet, that none of the options you're considering include keeping the parking. So I'm wondering if we can get something verbal from you guys to say that you will consider, at least consider an option to keep the parking on this street.
Kali, after this meeting, I really, I will give you that, my word, that I will be bringing this to some upper management to talk about it again.
Thank you.
Your reasoning and your, the examples you're providing are strong and valid, and I really would like to make that commitment to you. I can't say what's going to happen, except that I will bring it up again, and we'll bring these issues forward, and we'll see what other people in upper management have to say. We are at the project level, so, and I know that's not what you want to hear, but we can bring it up to a higher level. And what you're telling, all of these comments I'm hearing have really affected me tonight, and my heart goes out to all of you because I can feel the passion that you all have, and I want to bring that forward to management.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate that.
Janet.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, thank you for prompting the commitment, Kalia. We appreciate that. So in terms of, John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just just a quick comment. Thank you so much for everybody bringing it. A real conversation is hard, and over Zoom it's also very difficult. But I think people stepping forward and speaking their truth, and then being heard and being recognized, and this kind of dialogue is really helpful. I've listened to quite a bit of the conversation around parking, which is not the same issue for the PDA, way up at the north end, close to the bridge. What I did resonate with quite a bit were concerns about safety. And I don't know how much authority you have, folks, here from SDOT regarding issues beyond the bike lane. But I think it's a really pointed issue around the traffic, the speed of traffic, and what's happening between 14th, 15th, and where we see it is at Golf. And those two roads coming down into Golf and heading to the bridge, and people trying to cross on the west side of Golf and then hitting that strange intersection. I mean, I've watched people get hit there. And so part of the larger package around this very important issue has to include that part of it. And if that is beyond sort of where you guys live and breathe, being a connector to the folks at SDOT that can have conversations with us about the issues that go beyond the bike lane. I mean, this would be the time to really take that into consideration so that all the small pieces coming together can work toward contributing to safety. So thank you so much for being willing to take it upstairs. Please make sure to include issues that have been raised here regarding the traffic safety, the conflicts between pedestrians and cars, bicyclists and cars. We see it way too often up in our corner of the hill. Thank you.
I'm gonna make a last comment on this in terms of one item that showed up on the chat box, which is about the residential parking zone, the RPZ. There's a question in there if the community, if it needs to have concurrence from the community to make that happen. That's one. And then second, we have been working with Senator Hasegawa. He passed a law or budget proviso at the state level wherein Sound Transit, when it was a disruptor, was supposed to pay for the RPZs in that area. And that begs the question, with the city doing the disruption over with the bike lanes in our neighborhood, is the city going to pay for the RPs, for the fees for the residential parking zones? So I don't need an answer now, but I think that is a piece, if that's one of the tools in your toolbox that you're looking at, that we should really talk through, because as you well know, we are one of the vulnerable communities. And if this is going to create a hardship for our folks, then it doesn't work. Okay. Other than that, I think we have 3 very constructive next steps, which is for the 15th Avenue Connectors leadership to get together and talk through how they want to participate in a joint walkthrough. Everybody, if there's any leftover individual that you know or yourself who should have a visit from SDOT, for those who connected with the businesses, please clarify that. Janet, I don't know, but in one of the meetings that triggered this, there were 3 additional items for the study. One is, this is from Alvin, he brought it in from neighbors, wherein the displacement that will happen on the parking on 15th will radiate out to 14th, 13th, and 12th, and possibly 16th, 17th. There has to be a study on what that means, because those neighbors don't even know what may be coming. And they may have issues wherein they have disabled individuals who don't necessarily have the right signage or permit, and they could be impacted. So that was one. Second is, because 15th is utilized by the businesses around the junction, the restaurants and the businesses, what is the impact on those businesses to lose the parking? And third is the garden house there's a lot of discussions about activating it. And so they are also, I don't know, I guess it'll turn out to be a business, because it's a gathering place. And along with those, it'll be good to reconcile what Lisa was saying, that you guys have reached out to the gas station and to the hair cutter. So those are the steps. And of course, Lisa, you also mentioned a lot of resources in your website. It'll be great if you can identify what those in an email, so people can actually go through them. We have folks who are not necessarily website savvy, so we need to help them find that. And sometimes emailing the material to them is easier, because they can readily understand it. So did I miss a next step? So we're going to save time in the November meeting for you guys. Is that a yes, Lisa?
Yes, I confirmed that last week, and I'm really thinking that I'm going to talk. I had made notes about the parking team. I think the parking team needs to come and talk to you guys about your concerns in general, about like overflow parking from the stadium, the hide and ride, that's beyond the scope of this project. So I think you guys need that attention from them. And yes, and Jean, and I've got your email. I've been in touch with you, so I'll definitely.
Okay. Dee put in the address for the 15th Avenue Community Connections folks. They're really trying to do a good job and trying to give voice and visibility for community issues. Okay, so I just want everybody to show up, and let's give a very, very nice and warm hand for Lisa and Janet and the intern who grew up in Beacon Hill.
Jack.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we're gonna do a couple of announcements, and then I think we're gonna wrap up. It's about 8:10, and we still have to have our board meeting. Kathy, you have an update. Kathy Colombo has an update on the Chesty and on how the renaming of the park to honor Bill Wright. So go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. I'll try to, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I'll try to take as little of your time as possible, but I would like to give you an update on the opening for phase 1 for the mountain bike project at Cheesty Green Space. There was an opening last Saturday, and the new superintendent, Diaz, was there, along with the Parks Foundation, Evergreen Mountain Biking Association, Cheesty and Mountain View, to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for phase 1. I'm just going to speak about my disappointment as Friends of Cheesty, and I want to applaud Myra and Sarah and Daryl, who is not here, for the heavy weight that they have carried with the mediation. What was announced at that opening is that phase 2, which is the loop trail and I'll put the map into the chat if you're interested, is going to start construction next year. Our understanding through mediation was that, oh, I guess I can't add it. It's not letting me. Myra, maybe you can add it, or the map. For some reason, it's not.
I don't have it at hand.
Okay.
Can Maria, can you share the screen? Let Kathy share the screen and put the map up if you have it, Kathy.
hang on, Deirdre, if you can co-host Kathy, please. Then she should.
Okay,
be-
just a second.
My
I'll look
apologies.
for it real quick.
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Take your time, Kathy. This is pretty complicated stuff.
And I want to thank you all so much for, again, your support. Mediation was supposed to wait for 2 more years until the monitoring for phase 1. Let me go to share screen. Here it is. I don't know if you can see my screen, but
Yes, we can.
this is in place, and this is what opened up the south loop, if you can see on the screen. And what we were told is that construction is starting on the north loop. So it's it seems like pretty much it's a done deal. Myra, Sarah, and I believe Daryl will be meeting with the project manager, Mike Schwindler, on the 14th of October to go over this proposed North Loop. I'm just very disappointed that the monitoring is not going to be taken into account for this loop. And Sarah and Myra, if you want to add anything, please feel free to jump in.
Well, I will say that, you know, I'm not sure we should say that it's a done deal, because, I mean, I think the, you know, the community has not really been informed about this extension of this North Loop. There has been no environmental study done of this portion. The environmental study was only done on the South Loop. So I'm not sure we should say that it's a done deal. I mean, this is, they want to go forward as fast as possible with this, but you know, and it is disappointing that they're not waiting for the 3 years of data on the South Loop before, you know, pushing forward on the North Loop. And in fact, they've already started, they call it ground truthing, which is sort of like just going in and starting to build the trails in terms of they're going in with kind of like brush cutters and flagging and cutting down vegetation. Some of it is blackberry, but some of it is, you know, we've have photographs of large parts of it being native vegetation, salal, ferns, you know, things like that, of that nature. And so, you know, they're trying to kind of like push this as fast as possible, but you know, there are still points where community can weigh in, and I think that it's going to, you know, it's going to require community weighing in on this to, you know, to say, look, you know, you've got to consider the environmental impacts of this. You've got to consider the impacts. I mean, we just talked about safety on the streets. You know, there's already people mountain biking along the pedestrian trail that's along Cheesty Boulevard. You know, there's potential for interactions, and like those are considered to be externalities. They just want to see if the South Loop is successful in their mind in terms of how many people use it, but they're not considering the impact that it has on, you know, these other areas, the impact that it has on the pedestrian trail, the impact that it has on the environment, the impact that it has on the wetlands. There's numerous wetlands here that are involved. So I think it's not necessarily a done deal, but it will require a lot of people, you know, being aware of it and weighing in on this as this goes forward.
Myra, I have a question. You talked about a 3-year monitoring period. Is that part of the mediation agreement?
Yes.
Okay, then
Yes.
we're talking about a violation of the mediation agreement.
I'm sorry, Maria, I couldn't understand what you said.
I'm asking you, as well as Sarah and Kathy, if the 3-year monitoring period that they're skipping, if that 3-year monitoring period is part of the mediation agreement. And if it is, then it's a violation of that mediation agreement.
Yeah, the 3-year monitoring currently is on the south portion, the loops that are the thing that just opened, the loop that the 2 loops and the walking combined trail is on the south portion. And our understanding was that that would inform whether or not to go forward with the north portion. And they're saying, no, we're gonna do monitoring on these separately, as in, Sarah, help me out here. They don't necessarily want to consider what's happening in the south as a kind of impediment for going forward with the trails in the north and doing separate monitoring for that.
And who's the they? Parks Department?
Parks Department.
So what I would like is if we can have a conversation about this to really understand it. We should probably pull together, and I need to check in if it's going to be the Beacon Hill Council Environmental Justice Task Force, because that's also doing a lot of tree canopy preservation work. So that may be the right place. And then we can figure out if there is an action that Beacon Hill Council can take to help advocate for that.
Yeah, and
Myra, we would welcome
speaking of tree canopy, Sarah has a number of photographs from the South Loop of trees that have been cut, and they weren't necessarily cut down in the process of putting the trails in, but once the trails are in, there are trees that are considered to be hazard trees, and then they get cut down. And so it's been a lot of clearing that's happened, as sort of a side effect. That's not really, when they do these plants, they say, well, we're going to avoid cutting trees above a certain diameter, but then the trees get cut down anyway, because, they're considered to be a danger to the people who are using it. So by building trails, you're sort of creating hazard trees.
Maria, in the interest of time, we would love to work with any subcommittee, and we're putting together a more lengthy presentation for the council. This opening just all happened on this past weekend. So we welcome the opportunity to present a more complete picture to the council. And again, send us any work group or whatever you would like us to speak with.
We probably should do a telephone conference so we can understand the scope. And there's also other things that are happening with parks as well as with office sustainability regarding tree canopy. So it'll be good to understand how this thing fits together.
And this is a prime time simply because we do have a new superintendent who I believe is very open, as when I spoke with him about looking at community coming together. So if I can move to the second piece, and Mark Solomon, I think he's still here. I was doing some research. This is in regards to renaming the golf course, Jefferson Park Golf Course, to Bill Wright Jr. At Jefferson Park. And we decided that we needed permission from the family, and his wife passed away. So what I've been trying to do is to locate other family members. They're in Los Angeles. I was able to locate his goddaughter who lives in Renton, and she's reaching out to family but hasn't heard back. She said as the goddaughter that she thinks it's a great idea, but did appreciate the fact that we wanted permission from family because we'd like to include them in any kind of ceremony in the future. Mark, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, that about sums it up. Again, we wanted to make sure that as this project moved forward, we had the approval and the blessing of the family to do so. So, and I had to take a step back from the project because of things I was working on with the State Crime Prevention Association. And now that those projects have concluded, or at least under control, I can re-engage with this effort much more.
So we're still going to be working on this. It's just taken a little bit of a turn, and we'll continue moving forward. Everyone is still very interested, all the partners that we've been working with. So thank you for your time.
Okay, everybody, this was a very, very heartfelt conversation. And, you know, for the love of Beacon Hill, what can I say? So with that, we're going to close out this meeting, and I'd like the board members to stay. I also want to encourage everybody to consider running for the board. So that would be very good, particularly if you have energy for the neighborhood. Okay, so let's wave goodbye. It's so good to see you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great meeting. Thank you all.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye, Emily.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.